Hello and welcome to this video on encapsulation in Java. In this video, we'll be seeing about what is encapsulation, the advantages of encapsulation, and a simple example to understand them better. So let us dive into the coding part. Encapsulation in Java is a process of wrapping code and data together into a single unit. For example, a capsule which has mixed of several medicines. We can create a fully encapsulated class in Java by making all the data members of the class private. Now, we can use setter and getter methods to set and get data in it. So the Java bean class is an example of a fully encapsulated class. Before getting into the Java bean, we'll see about the advantages of encapsulation in Java. By providing only a getter and a setter method, you can make the class read only or write only. In other words, you can skip the getter or setter methods. It provides you the control over the data. Suppose you want to set the value of an ID which should be greater than 100 only. You can write a logic inside the setter method. If you write the logic not to store the negative numbers in setter method, it is a way to achieve data hiding in Java because other classes will not be able to access the data through private data members. The encapsulated class is easy to test, so it is better for unit testing. The standard IDEs are providing the facilities to generate getter and setters, so it is easy and fast to create an encapsulated class in Java. So now diving into the example. A simple example of encapsulation. Let's see a class called student. So I'll have a class student. Inside my class student, I'll have two variables, int id and I'll have string name. Now this is very similar to our initial example, but if you note it carefully, I'm able to access this id and name outside of my class student because they're not provided the necessary access modifier. So now I'll provide my variables as private, int id and private string name. Now these classes, if I try to access them outside, let's see what happens. I'll declare a student s1 equal to new of student semicolon. Now when I try to print these values, s1 dot id, let's see what happens. I'll assign these values 100 so there isn't any error while declaring. As you can see, we are getting an error where the ID has private access in student. So when you provide these access modifiers as private, we cannot access them outside directly from your main class. Instead, what alternatives are available? I'll be able to provide the set name features or set ID. What do I mean by that? I'll be declaring a method which returns the value. I'll make my return values public int get id open close parenthesis and my stuff. Now using this get id function, I'll return my id value. Now instead of calling directly the id, I'll be using my methods get id. And now if I try to print the code, you can see that the value is printed. So what difference does it actually make to call my ID directly or use a method get ID? So the main difference is that the coder gets to decide what can be accessed outside of the class and what cannot be accessed outside of the class. If I want to return my ID, I'm able to do that. But what if I want to protect some confidential data like passwords or client names, which needs to be hidden? So the requirement for data hiding in coding is very important to set up our data encapsulations. So we can also set up these codes so that we can also now set our IDs. What do I mean by that? I can change my values of IDs using specified functions. Public void set ID, and I'll get my values from the main function, and I'll use my this operator equal to ID. So now I'll try to set my value s1 dot set ID, and I'll change my ID value to 250. Now if I try to print this value again, save the function, java c, 100 and 250. As you can see, now I'm using my public method to change the value of ID instead of me manually changing my ID as 100 or 250. So again, data hiding is promoted over here. I can also set up a read-only class. Read-only class means that I'll be able to only get these values, but I won't be able to change these values. If I do not have a setter ID for my private variables, I can never change these values. I can only provide these values. So once a value is provided, maybe using a constructor, I can never change these values because I do not have access to this class outside of this class. So the coder gets to decide if someone from the outside can change these values or not. I can also set up as write only. Write only in the sense, a classic example of write only class is forms. When you type in your forms or surveys, you can only enter your values. You cannot see the values of other people, and you can also not see the values of your own answers once it's submitted. Exam results. So you cannot change these values. You can only write only once, and now we can't get the values here. These are some classic examples. So I can also define my private methods inside my own classes to retrieve the scores. For example, I can set up my mark values. I can set up a private marks method and perform all the calculations inside them and retrieve the only final total marks into my other variable and access the final marks. So inside the class, we'll be able to calculate all the individual marks of the subjects, but the users can never find out the individual marks outside of the class, and they'll be only able to see the total marks. So this provides great security for your classes and programs, and this also promotes data hiding. So this is about data encapsulation. In this video, we saw about what is data encapsulation, advantages of data encapsulation, and multiple examples to understand them better. Hope this video is helpful. See you in the next video. Thank you.